Hello, finally we can address you, Prime Minister.
Your Excellency Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, welcome to Bangkok and thank you very much for joining me. I have been waiting for more than 20 years to address you as Prime Minister and finally I can address you as Prime Minister.
Thank you.
How's your life has been different as being Prime Minister and Prime Minister in waiting?
Well, you waited for too long. That when you achieve that, it's just like normal. You've been thinking about it, you plan, and I am as comfortable as I was before. So nothing has changed. My mannerism, my contact. Although the burden of office is, of course, something else, and you have to deal with the problems of the state, and you have to work really, really hard.
But are you happier?
Well, happy in a sense that you don't have that pressure, now pressure of work, not the pressure of harassment and intimidation. And it's of course quite a relief.
Your premiership is approaching 100 days. Is this still honeymoon period for you?
Not really, because from day one, I have my colleagues getting the clear message, all committed. We work very hard. We don't have a clear time frame, whether it's a week or a month or a year. The point is from day one, we have to set the parameters right, because we are talking about good governance, ridding the country of corruption, which has become systemic, which means the challenge is serious. And we have also some glimmer of racial tension and religious animosity, which we have to deal with. But I believe the majority of Malaysians remain sane, understanding that we can live up to our belief, but we have the country to preserve and secure.
Regarding your visit to Thailand, your schedule is very packed, about 48 hours. But yesterday you have discussion with Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, and it's been expected highly out of your visit that it will lead to peace process in Thailand, especially the role of Malaysia. Can you tell me what you discussed with him, frankly, about the South of Thailand?
Well, with Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha and Deputy Prime Minister General Prawit, who's of course dealing with some issues in the South, we discussed it extensively because it's been going on for decades. The difference being, it is an internal matter within Thailand. So we can come in only as a facilitator when requested. And I told Prime Minister Prayut that in a small way, with your agreement, I would do whatever is necessary, talking to our friends in the South, engaging with them, and also engaging with those in Bangkok. There is trust deficit. Is it true that there is not going to be intimidation? Is it true that their welfare, that their religion and culture and language be protected? I believe it is true. I mean, it's not just a matter of what the government had said, but it's from their action. So we'll have to then ensure that the negotiations and meetings take place more often, and some of the issues raised must be dealt with and addressed. But what cannot be conceded or compromised is our position against any form of violence.
Formally, Malaysia has appointed new facilitator. Can you do more on top of having facilitator for Malaysia?
Well, only one facilitator who's formerly chief of the armed forces, who's a friend to many of the key generals here, and that has helped immensely in the negotiations, in the process of negotiations. But what is more important is not just one, it's a commitment. Number one, both prime ministers. Number two, both security agencies. Number three, the issue of socio-economic development, not only for South Thailand, but also for North Malaysia, North Malaya, not North Malayan Peninsula, and both in terms of bilateral and also the triangle, which involves part of Indonesia. So we have to revive that. And I think there's just a consensus. I think Prime Minister Prayut was also very positive in this sort of initiative. I can't say for now, but from reading the notes of past meetings, this has been most frank, most forthcoming, and a commitment to proceed to ensure that there is a special sort of effort to enhance bilateral relations, border security, avoiding smuggling, trade, investments, joint development, cultural, education. It has been so positive, and I'm very encouraged.
In a press conference, you said peace in the south of Thailand is paramount in this situation, but by doing all means necessary. What do you mean by that?
We have to listen to them and listen also to those in charge in Bangkok and deal on the specific issues. Everybody talks about peace. Everyone talks about justice. But if you can listen to the grievances and deal with it specifically, but again, on top of all this is socioeconomic development. And people will be busy in development, busy in their jobs, and at the same time, their interest of the minority groups, both either religious or groups, as part of the Thai context, is respected. I mean, I told Prime Minister General Prayut that in Malaysia, we are also making that departure. I don't want any citizen, be it a Muslim or Buddhist or Christian or Hindu, to feel that they are marginalized in any way. I mean, so sometimes it's not true. Sometimes it's a perception. So we have to correct the perception. Sometimes it's not the policy, not the leaders, but the enforcement agencies and the players on the ground. So all these things can be addressed. But these are not really issues that is not unsurmountable. This can be dealt with. In my exchanges with not only the two, the Deputy Prime Minister and other ministers, but I sense there is this ray of hope. The people are, look, we want to develop our countries. We want to have, therefore we need to have excellent relations with our neighbor. It is a common border, you know, it's no joke. And unfortunately, the border areas are for us, from Malaysia also, relatively the poorer areas. And similarly in Thailand. So our common resolve is to uplift. That's why there was a misunderstanding where I say, look, develop South Thailand. I should say, should also develop North Malayan Peninsula. So if it is joint effort, it will help.
So that should be clear vision between both countries. And do you see that is the way to reduce the problem of trust deficit?
I mentioned trust deficit in the past, but if you have these sort of exchanges and the ministers with their counterpart continue, the officers, the military, the police, the intelligence agencies. So I said to the Prime Minister, the movement should be not just selected levels. I mean, students, youth leaders, religious leaders, interreligious dialogue. So it has got to be vibrant. People must be active, busy, doing something positive.
In addition to the issue of Southern Thailand, what else the two countries can cooperate more to step up bilateral relations?
Well, there's a problem dealing with Myanmar, which is more problematic for Thailand because of the common border. You're dealing with the military junta that do not care about the plight of human rights issues or killings and rights of minorities. But I told my Thai counterpart that we have a problem because almost 200,000 already in Malaysia. We can't cope. The solution is not to give them better housing and medical facilities. The solution is in Myanmar. It must be there and resolved by the military regime. We can't say that the whole of ASEAN has no influence or say. Because if we do give that signal, then the Europeans and the Americans or the Chinese will claim the right. So that's my view. Although I must humbly concede that I'm junior in this region, in the leadership. So I have to speak and persuade the other more senior leaders.
So you mean that as a newcomer, do you believe in your ability to convince other leaders you met with, leader of Brunei, Indonesia, Singapore, and now Thailand? Can they be on the same page on Myanmar?
So far we're getting closer. It's not a matter of my convincing them. They share. Sometimes they convince me too. But we don't have a choice. If we can't or fail to have an amicable resolution to this problem, there's going to be every right for the rest to come in. And it's not new. We're talking about 4 decades of a conflict. And it doesn't seem to be resolved in near future unless ASEAN will take probably a revised strategy. What we'll have to discuss.
Do you still believe in ASEAN way and constructive engagement, ASEAN way of solving this crisis?
Yes and no. There is also a lot of strength in dialogue and negotiations, but the ASEAN way has been extremely productive in dealing with many other issues, negotiating, tolerance, etc. But the ASEAN way needs to be revised when it comes to Myanmar because constructive engagement has not been working.
What's your plan of revising it as the newcomer?
As a newcomer, I will have to listen to my other colleagues. I know, acknowledge there is a problem. Our previous attempt to resolve doesn't seem to work. Things have gotten worse. You can't say it's an internal problem of Myanmar because it's affecting us, affecting Thailand badly because of the border. Refugees worse in Malaysia, and the refugees even affecting Indonesia. So we'll have to deal. Indonesia is taking the lead. I will probably in the next 1 or 2 weeks speak to President Jokowi, giving my view on what has happened and seeking his wisdom in formulating some new strategies.
But do you still think ASEAN should stick with 5-point consensus on Myanmar crisis?
Well, 5-point consensus should always be the beginning.
But ASEAN will have to stick to this path.
The past is not cast in stone, which means that should be the broad parameters and they could expand or go deeper beyond it. I leave it to my wise foreign minister working with his colleagues and advising us in return.
But so far, do you agree with Thai way of dealing with Myanmar because it's major issue of Thailand because Thailand bordering with Myanmar? Our minister said it has to be quiet diplomacy. Do you also believe in it?
With due respect, the Thai way, the Malaysian way, the ASEAN way has not been working. Is there a more viable alternative? Let us discuss. But if you assume that this has helped, my position is this: constructive engagement, the ASEAN way, the Malaysian way, the Thai way, have resulted in 200,000 people in Malaysia. So we need to be bold enough to say, well, the way has helped. At least there's no war. The way has eased the tension, but the way has not been able to solve.
Now you are take up premiership during very interesting time in terms of geopolitics at this political juncture. So Malaysia from now on will be closer to the US or to China as they are the main 2 rivals.
We are close to Thailand.
We are neighbors.
Yeah, but we are a small country, and ASEAN position has been rather consistent. We must engage with China. China is an important neighbor, a big trading partner, huge potential for investments into the region. America has been all established trading and investment and relationship, and I think we should continue with that manner, to regard both as friends and move on from there as a region. It is of course disconcerting because their tension affect us too. But I don't think it is fair for them to expect us to take sides, because it is to our interest and advantage to establish excellent relationship with China, for example, as an important big neighbor. And we can't, just because of some differences, for sake America or Europe, China, India, Australia. I mean, to me, as a nation, a community of nations, our position should be more open, more amicable, and realistic in our approach.
But that must be really big challenge because, of course, we have to maintain balancing between the two superpowers. But
that's why we appoint competent foreign ministers.
How do you see the situation of Russia-Ukraine war right now and the position of ASEAN?
Well, again, this is an issue that we have some minor role in just expressing our views. You see the principle of no invasion is there, which means we did say we disagreed. But at the same time, we also understand some of the concerns about the military capability of neighboring countries, which you deem to be provocative to Russia. Now, what is the solution? We are strongly urging both countries to negotiate and not to allow this protracted war to continue, because it's causing so much hardship to the people globally.
Back to domestic politics of Malaysia. Dr. Mahathir just said recently that he couldn't figure out why he lost in the election. Do you have answer for him?
No, I think should leave him alone. And I think he has done his part, but he also committed many blunders. And but for now, I think the country has to move on. And at the right time, then it will move on even beyond Anwar. We have to accept it. This is the reality. And the sooner myself or him or anybody accept the fact that we have a role, but we have got to read the signal. It's done. It's done.
Your government, you brand it as national unity government, but it's unlikely coalition. People probably could never think of before to see PH and Barisan Nasional UMNO joining together. What's the challenge of you as the main conductor of this coalition government?
Well, we are living in post-normal times, as you know, unanticipated. There is some things are developing, what you call as simultaneous, sometimes spontaneous, and would require some ingenuity in resolving many of the problems. Now, let us look at Malaysia. What is the problem? Political instability will kill the country. Politically, economically. In the last few years, nothing seems to move. No policy, no direction. And because of that, leaders would take the chance to squander as much as possible. So, we have been, of course, loggerheads, sometimes vicious fighting between Pakatan Harapan and coalition that I lead, and also the UMNO-led coalition of Barisan Nasional. But what was the consensus? You see, enough. We agree that we need stability. We agree that we need to chart a new future for the country. We agree on the basis of good governance and ridding the country of corruption. And we agree that this is a country which is multiracial, strong Malay base, to address the Malay concerns, but to be able to embrace and include all races. These are the parameters. Now we agree, and with a strong coalition, a partner in Sarawak and some in Sabah, we form a very formidable alliance of two-thirds majority that is bringing Malaysia as one of the most stable country in ASEAN.
So you quite believe in stability of this government. What's the risk that you can calculate to see in the future?
No reason to disbelieve this. There is no real serious attempt. Of course, some desperate voices will do this in 3 months, we'll do in 6 months, we'll buy this, we'll buy that. I don't see that as a problem right now.
With the issue of corruption, because you highlight it as the main mission of your government, but people must be wondering how would you deal with Deputy Prime Minister because he faced so many charges on corruption.
No, so for to give him the credit, he has not interfered in the process. He has been charged, going through the due process. He has never asked me to withdraw the case. So I think, to be fair, he has done it. But the point is, good governance is the agenda. That he has got to go through the process. It's separate. I don't think you should demonize a person when the system is also corrupt. When those in the opposition shouting and yelling daily about corruption has awarded hundreds of millions of contracts to the son and son-in-law and the cronies. So I say, look, you want to deal with it, do it transparently. Okay? At least this man, Deputy Prime Minister, is not facing charges. He is magnanimous enough to say, look, I'll go and face it. But the other guys are so hypocritical, talking about clean government and be complicit to the crimes of corruption.
Malaysian people must be waiting to see progress of one MDB case. What will be on the track?
It was huge progress. We have charged the former Prime Minister. He's in prison. We have gone against all possible cases in the country. We have been able to redeem most of the funds, or at least 50%, which is, incidentally, one of the highest ever achieved, about the lost funds, to recover 50%. We have not done so with Nigeria or Philippines, nothing, that's all. So I think, but we have not ended. The process still continues. And I think the next few days probably we'll hear some good news about some more funds coming back. And I made it very clear, get a professional team, you proceed. I don't compromise on these issues. But the issue is not only one MDB or what the opposition used to highlight, so-called one kleptocrat. No, there are a lot out there who's been, stealing from the coffers, and we have to recover the funds.
To be Prime Minister, do you have time for yourself right now, like think back to see what really happened to you to be at this very juncture?
When it's just too long, you are suggesting I'm too old. No, I think it's important that when you are entrusted with the job, you have to continue to deliver. Now, if it's true that we waited too long, then make full use of the time to deliver the goods, affect change, and at least give some ray of hope. Malaysia can do much more. Malaysia should be able to encourage all citizens to have a clear direction and hope. And I think that is my preoccupation. Get the right team, get the right policies, and implement to the best of our ability.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for joining me ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you, Kapunka.
ค่ะ
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure.